All right, so we know a bit about the foundational knowledge about our memory. Let's start to actually talk about things that we can proactively go out and do to improve our memory across all stages, across consolidation, across recall, across formation, across retrieval. And what that really comes down to is strengthening the connectivity that's required for all of those functions. And pattern recognition and recall challenges are really, really great at this. They're really great at boosting our memory capacity and our efficiency. And the reason is that these challenges, they tap into those neural processes that underlie all of the stages: memory formation, consolidation, and retrieval as well. And the reason that happens is our brains are wired to detect and encode patterns in the information we encounter. We're looking for them. Our brains are always looking for patterns because that allows for the efficient storage and the retrieval of memories. So again, it's just about capitalizing on what's already happening there in the brain. And this is where the hippocampus and the neocortex and the prefrontal cortex are all working together they're basically just playing with each other and they're having a good time, and we get really, really strong connections in our brains from that. Now, let me walk you through that process really quickly, and then I'll run you through a few examples of what you can do to proactively go out there and strengthen these connections through pattern recognition and recall challenges. So during pattern recognition, your hippocampus is busy linking different pieces of information to form associations. Now, as those patterns become more familiar, your neocortex takes on a greater role in automatic pattern recognition, and that's relying on existing neural connections to identify and process patterns efficiently. So while your hippocampus is making associations and linking all of these things up. Oh, that goes with that, goes with that. No, that goes with that, with that. Then your neocortex comes on and it's looking for these patterns. And the way that it looks for these patterns is it dives into all of your old memories, and it dives into everything that you already know and have experienced to be able to identify and process patterns that are familiar to us. It's why learning new concepts is a little bit harder, because we don't have a lot to really build off or connect it to. And then you've got your prefrontal cortex coming into play, and that's responsible for higher order cognitive functions. So that really supports what's happening there. I don't want to call it the cheerleader on the sidelines. It's more like the water boy that's running out and making sure that you're hydrated, and we're supporting the working memory and the manipulation of these patterns as well. So all of this goes into a big mixing pot, and it gives us some huge benefits for our memory enhancement. So I want to show you a few things that we can do. But first, let's go through the benefits of them. Why do we actually want to do these exercises and these challenges that we can engage in? The first thing is strengthening that neural connectivity. When we do these challenges, or when we engage in pattern recognition, we stimulate neural connections and we strengthen the networks of brain regions that are involved in all of those stages of memories. And this process improves the communication and the coordination among these brain regions. And what that does is that facilitates efficient encoding and storage and retrieval of information. And in our brain, we rely on white matter to allow the effective communication of different information and the exchange of information and communication between different areas of your brain. And white matter is made up of a large network of nerve fibers, your axons in your brain, and it's all of those working together in a coordinated fashion to exchange that information and to exchange that idea. And somewhere that happens a lot in your brain is your corpus callosum. And that is a thick band of white matter that connects your right and your left cerebral hemispheres. And basically, that's your brain's information superhighway. It connects the hemispheres and it lets everything run everywhere. But we've got white matter all throughout our brain in all different regions, and we've basically got this interconnected superhighway for information to travel on, so long as we're able to get that effective communication and coordination among these different regions. So how can we do that? How can we light up all of those different areas, and how can we start to make more connections on this interconnected highway? Well, the first thing is try to solve puzzles like Sudoku or crosswords, things that require recognizing and completing patterns. And as you work through these challenges, take a moment to think about how your brain is effortlessly identifying recurring patterns and how it's becoming more adept at recalling relevant information as well. Now, let's talk about how it challenges our enhanced attention and our focus as well, because when we train our mind to pay attention to details, close attention to details, and I got to tell you, a quick sidebar, we hear as well that people are, I'm either a detail-oriented person or I'm a big picture person. And we think, again, that that's fixed. Nothing is fixed. If you're a big picture person and you want to become detail-oriented, do things to enhance your attention and focus. If you want to go the other way, do things that are going to allow you to have a much bigger, a much larger, much wider focus. You can be both, and you should be both, to be totally honest with you, because when we are able to do both, we're able to switch through it. So, as I say this, if the first thought that pops into your mind is, well, I'm not the detail person. BS. You can be. You're not the detail person because you don't want to be the detail person. So if you're happy with that, cool, move on. But we can do things to train our mind to pay close attention to details. And this is by engaging in activities like spot the difference puzzles or finder words, these things where we need to meticulously observe visual stimuli to identify subtle variations. And you can think about this in two ways. Notice when you're doing these things, how your attention to detail improves over time. And that's going to lead to more precise pattern recognition and recall. But have a think and have a quick assessment on how good you are at assessing details in paying attention to details. And then think about your childhood and your upbringing and what you did when you were a kid and as you grew up through your adolescence. What did you do? If you're not a detail person, did you engage in many spot the difference puzzles, many finder words? Did you do these things where you were trying to identify subtle variations in things, or did you not? Because if you didn't, guess what? Whatever we practice is what we get good at. So you haven't practiced it. You're not a detail person because you've never bothered to practice becoming a detail person. And it's really that simple. I guess the whole point of that is you're never fixed. If you are one thing and you want to be different, you can. Your brain adapts every single day. Figure out what you need to do to make the difference. Now, let's talk about another benefit, which is improved cognitive flexibility. And pattern recognition challenges foster cognitive flexibility so that you're able to adapt and switch between different patterns and mental frameworks. And this allows us to approach information from multiple angles and to access various retrieval cues as well. So how do we get better at this? You can solve brain teasers or you can solve riddles that require you to think laterally, to think outside the box and to consider alternative perspectives as well. So challenge yourself to find creative solutions by breaking free from rigid patterns of thinking, from the way we do things around here. And as you do it, observe how you get a better ability to recognize and recall information from unconventional angles and perspectives. So that's, brain teasers. Do you engage in many brain teasers at the moment? And if not, how can you do it? I was at an event just over this past weekend, and saw some family members. It was a wedding, and one of my cousins came up and he said, "Wow, your kid's so great. He's got such a great memory. He's really clever." They were working on some puzzles with his cousins, and his cousin wasn't as good as he was as doing it. And I said to my cousin, I said, "Well, of course he is, because that's what we teach him. That's what we get him to play with, and that's how we get him to train stuff." My kids aren't great at sports. They have a go, but they're not great at it because we don't put a huge focus on that. Whatever you practice is what you will get good at. That's the big lesson from everything. Whatever you practice is what you get good at. So practice your brain teasers, practice your riddles if that's an area that you want to get better at. If you want to get better at cognitive flexibility. What about if you want to improve your working memory capacity? Well, pattern recognition and recall challenges, this is where they really require you to hold and manipulate information in your working memory. So when we practice activities that make us memorize and repeat number sequences or memorize playing memory card games, like literally, where was that card? Flip it over. Where was the other one? Flip it over. This is when we strengthen our working memory capacity, and that's where we can store more things and we can retrieve things easier. We can have better retrieval of patterns as well. So go and play some games that make you memorize and either repeat number sequences, or they make you remember things like, what's that game called with the cards? Where you lay all of the cards out and you look at them all first of all, and then you flip one over and you've got to find the pair. Those types of things, they're what we're talking about when we talk about working memory challenges as well. And these things are so great because they're all transferable skills. That's why we work at the level that we work at, because these are all transferable skills that we can develop through pattern recognition and recall challenges, but they don't just make you good at solving a Sudoku puzzle, or they don't just make you good at doing the find a word. They're transferable to real life situations because we're able to detect and remember patterns. That helps us to make better decisions, to learn better, to problem solve better. We can test them in real world scenarios through data analysis or language learning or music, and you can start to notice how these things become easier as well. It's why they say that music is such a great thing to engage in, because it lights up all of these different areas that we want to light up as well. So remember, as you go down this path, continue to explore a variety of different pattern recognition and challenges. These could be visual puzzles, these could be complex cognitive tasks, and think about how your brain adapts, how it develops new connections, and how it refines its ability to recognize and to recall patterns effortlessly. And that's really what we want to do. When we engage in these things, you're strengthening all of those neural connections that you need, and you're helping to really embrace the power of pattern recognition to really unlock the full capacity of your memory. And that's what we're trying to do. Bye now.